Daryl!
We were tired, and I kept looking back at Trish, and she was stumbling along, and there was no sign of civilization, no sounds, and I thought it was at that point that I thought, oh my Lord, where are we?
It was a real helpless feeling at the time because you had no idea where to go. You didn't know which way was out. About the only thing that I knew about the area was that I had to travel 35 miles to get out if I went the wrong way. But I didn't know what the wrong way was.
In all cultures, at all times, the threat of getting lost has been such a serious one, very frequently life-threatening, that it figures in our literature, in our art, in our legends, in our myth, in our architecture. It's everywhere. There are all sorts of stories and symbols and patterns, and in one way or another, they express the fascination, the preoccupation with orientation and disorientation.
It's not something that you can communicate. It's not something that you can capture and describe. If you are lost, if you are so lost that you fear for your life, or that you even wonder if you're going to make it through and survive, that is an experience that you cannot communicate to somebody else.
Where am I? Where are you? They seem to be the simplest of questions. But psychologists Ken Hill and Dan Montello know better. They've spent years studying how people get lost. At Canada's largest search and rescue conference, the experts who comb the woods meet the experts who comb the mind for clues about how people behave when disoriented.
Everyone is always objectively lost. Okay? While I was writing this, I was at my desk. I was unsure of my exact latitude and longitude. I looked out the window. I was uncertain of the exact direction of the view out the window. I knew, fairly closely. I wasn't certain of the exact distance to the store I was about to travel, so on and so forth. Here now, I'm at this podium. I'm in Banff. I'm in Alberta. I'm in Canada. But you see, I could push this very easily, and we'd find out that I, in fact, am objectively disoriented at this time. We can be lost in a lot of different ways, and people freely talk about being lost in everything from lost in a math problem, lost in traffic, where they don't necessarily mean they can't find their way, but they're confused elsewhere. People talk about being lost when their boyfriend or their girlfriend breaks up with them. My favorite is what I call spiritual disorientation, which is expressed by the phrase to be lost in life.
So this is the kind of environment that I'm especially interested in studying. How do people get around in that environment? How do they maintain their orientation? And as a search and rescue responder myself, as someone who actually coordinates searches in my province, that has obviously a very important applied implication for me. How do people navigate those environments, and what do they do? And I'm especially interested in this. What do they do when they get turned around? In 1986, there was a small boy, age 9, who became lost in the woods in Beaverbank, which is just north of Halifax. I received a call from the RCMP asking if I could give any advice about the behavior of a child, a lost child. What would they do? Where would they go? I didn't have anything to say to him. I didn't know of any research that had really looked at actual lost children. We'd known a lot about their spatial behavior in controlled laboratory experiments, but nothing about what they would actually do under those circumstances. And I went down to the scene, and it was an incredible situation. There were thousands of people mingling about with no apparent purpose or organization. I went to the command post and introduced myself, and the RCMP constable took me to the map and asked me if I had any ideas about where they should be searching for the boy. I was just totally without any ability to offer the slightest bit of advice. I felt so humbled by the experience that I just went out and joined up with one of the volunteer teams right there. Spent the rest of the 8 days going places I didn't think that an animal could crawl through.
During a sunny family vacation, Andy Warburton vanished. Volunteers rushed to the scene to help search for the missing boy. The thought of a terrified 9-year-old alone in dark woods touched thousands.
GPS coordinates 047.
To succeed, a search should be a highly organized and extremely well-managed operation. The search for Andy Warburton was neither. When hundreds walked slowly through the woods, their sheer numbers crush countless clues and destroy scents that could lead dogs to the lost person. 5 days after his disappearance, Andy died from exposure.
I'd like to inform you that momentarily ago, search has found the body of Andrew, and we're presently bringing it out.
What he apparently did was turn left when he should have turned right. He was trying to make his way down to a lake, to an area where children were swimming. And he came to a fork in the road, and he turned left instead, which took him into the woods. Very large wilderness area. Looking where he was found and possibly how he got there, it appears that he just panicked and ran, and until he fell over. Completely incapable, I would say, of solving any sort of spatial problem. You know, am I going the right way? Is this the path back to home? Is this the right road? Because he apparently crossed a road and maybe even ran down a road without even thinking about, is this the right way for me to go? I thought it was a situation that really didn't have to happen. So I stayed with the team, and I've been doing research on lost people, including children, ever since. We're going to play Follow the Leader, and I'll be the leader. And just follow me and try not to stray off the path. And when we get to where we're going, one of the questions I'm going to ask you is to point to this very pond right here. Any questions? Great. Well, let's go. Lost person behavior is a very difficult topic to study. You can't actually observe a lost person. All we can do is measure and observe lost person behavior indirectly. So I've used many different methods for trying to appreciate, trying to understand the experience of lost, never really able in one particular method to directly observe the lost person. I take my students in the woods and I get them lost in a sense because they have no idea where they are or how to get back. But I'm with them. I can't say, well, I'm going to leave you guys here and I'll meet you back at the car. When I count to 3, I want you to point in some direction where you think the pond is. Okay? Everybody ready? Okay, on 3, everybody will point. 1,
Quick dryer.
2, 3. Okay, keep your finger where it is. Keep it where it is. No fair changing. It's going to take me a second. There are 9 of you here. Okay. I'm going to start with you. Your number is 2 degrees. Write that down. One reason I have a lot of interest in this park, I discovered in my first visits that you can go pretty much around that thing all day before you realize this isn't going anywhere. I mention that because one tactic or strategy for finding your way out of a maze is always turn to the right or turn to the left, keep turning the same direction, eventually you'll come out. Well, that doesn't work. So the parking area is down here, and when I do my research, I take them to point B by various routes, and I ask them to lead me back. No one in 10 years of this, apart from one person, has ever been successful in this task. Okay, folks, we get to do some more pointing. This is an easy one. When I count to 3, everybody point to the trail that we should take from this point. 1, 2, 3. So keep pointing. So what do we have? What's the consensus? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're kind of in the middle. You undecided? No. Think we should go this way. How many think should go that way? Well, you're correct. Let's go. You're right. They don't pay attention to which way they turn at each of the intersections. And consequently, on the way back, they have no idea which way they're supposed to go. They have a 50% chance of picking between left and right. When I count to 3. So people underestimate the difficulty of staying oriented. And usually this is perhaps because of urban living, that it's not a requirement that often that we have to pay much attention to where we are, especially if we're in a familiar area.
The size of 48 city blocks, West Edmonton Mall is the world's largest shopping center. Every year, over 2,000 people get lost here.
You able to find yourself on this map up here? Finding it a little confusing myself.
You should know where you are. It said right there.
You are here.
You're right there?
Yeah.
You don't think you're standing out here in this open space? Shopping malls and shopping centers are some of the most confusing public buildings that people find themselves in. And one thing, of course, that's very confusing about malls is they're broken up into a lot of little spaces that go off at different angles. And oftentimes all of the signs and the lights and the attractions are very confusing to people. In fact, we know from talking to children that by far the most common experiences they have getting lost are in shopping malls. Of course, the designers of malls and other large department stores don't necessarily want you to know where you are. It's a common strategy to get people disoriented intentionally, so they end up wandering around the store looking at all the displays and all of the shops rather than finding their way to the exit. So you see that this can be a modern example of a labyrinth or a maze.
From teens hanging out in malls to aristocrats wandering between hedgerows, socializing in a maze-like place is nothing new. Planted at Hampton Court in 1690 by King William III, this is the oldest of Britain's famous hedge mazes.
The maze formed part of a much larger design, which was called a wilderness, and the whole of the section to the north of the palace was a wilderness. Now, wilderness was a huge hedge-planted garden which had lots of different sections in it where people could wander and enjoy and have some privacy. And it was used by the court. But it implied a place to wander rather than a wild, uncultivated area. The aim of coming into the maze is to find your way to the centre, which is called the goal, and then to find your way out again. Its design is purely for fun, but in the court of William III, it was used as also a place to court the ladies. So it was part of the social experience of the time.
The world's longest hedge maze is at Longleat House in Wiltshire, England. Thick yew tree walls, dead ends, and hairpin turns create a challenging puzzle that can take hours to solve.
Hi. Thanks, it's 2.
That's 320 then, please.
When we find the centre, do we have to find our way back out as well?
Yes, you do.
So if we are like gone for a few hours, you won't come and find us?
Not till 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Right. Look for you at 5 o'clock.
Okay. Right, which way are we going to go?
Straight.
That way.
While some people will do anything to avoid being
Okay,
lost,
well.
others happily pay for the experience.
Here we go. This way. My turn. Yeah, look, we need to like a ball of wool or something that we can follow. Lift if lost.
Be a map. Lift it.
No, I don't want to know, actually. I want to carry on.
Look underneath.
Right, Longleat Maze. This part of the maze is difficult. Young children should be accompanied by an adult. Well, you'll be all right. Right, she'll have plenty of time, so... That way then, because we came through that way, so we'll go that way.
Go on then.
Okay?
Disorientation comes over you slowly. For a long time, you may not think you're really lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bridge. Right, go see if you can see over the edge. Oh, they purposefully built the sides too high to see over.
Down. Oh, here we go. We can see now.
What can we see?
Yeah.
Right, can we
Is that
figure
in
this
the
out now?
Not
No,
on
it's
this
not very
side.
much help, is it? Because we can't see the middle, because the middle's probably over there somewhere. Hang on. See the cracks?
There's the remains of the last creature that tried to find its way through the maze. But
There. Somewhere. It's over there somewhere.
Being lost in a maze has always captivated us, drawn us into its mystery.
We go through history, we move from one place in the world to another place. We see labyrinth-like structures. We see labyrinth or maze-like patterns repeated in place after place, serving a great variety of functions, starting with a spiritual or religious. So for instance, some of the earliest labyrinths were undoubtedly religious temples or otherwise served as places of worship or spiritual meditation.
How the labyrinth works is that even though there is only that one path, very quickly as you start walking into it, you have no sense of, am I close to the beginning, am I close to the end? And so you have to trust the path. I mean, and certainly that's a pretty ancient spiritual teaching, that sense of trust your life's path, and that you just have to walk it rather than decide, maybe I'm going the wrong way, I should go backwards, I should go forwards. Just trust that, you know, that at times you're going to feel close to the center, and at times it's going to feel like you're more on the outside.
I first came to the labyrinth about 2 years ago when my husband died. And we had been married for 33 and a half years, and we're very, very close. Almost everything that you are used to, that you thought you could depend on, that you thought you knew what your life would be, doesn't look the same anymore. It's been changed. You can't see it, you can't find it, you can't feel it anymore. You're just, it's a whole new world, and you need to learn it. This gave one sort of regular place and time when I could look inside and see what was there, you know, what could I do, what was the best thing for me to do, or should I just perhaps not do anything for a while? So it helped. It helped to kind of orient myself very much, kind of like a compass almost. For someone who is lost on a sort of spiritual, psychological level, then they're lost as a human being. To be really human, to live our human potential to its fullest, is to be connected to ourselves, to our history, to our ancestors, to the world around us. And if we've lost that connection, then we're just floating. To be as fully human as we can be is to be as fully conscious as we can be. And that means to be consciously connected to the inner world, to others, and to nature as well.
I'm feeling quite peeved at myself for not actually being able to find the way to the centre, to be honest.
It was fun, wasn't it? It's sort of
Yeah, it's
getting a
supposed
bit
to be
more
fun, but
serious
it's
now, isn't it?
yeah, it's supposed to be fun, but it's not anymore.
So is that agreed we're going to go this way?
Well, yeah. And if not, if we end up back here again, we'll obviously go the other way. Water, I'm gasping.
Remember this? We went that way. We're going there. We do. Sure of it.
Okay.
But which way?
Males and females differ in their wayfinding strategies with respect to a distinction that we call route style versus survey style.
50-50. I say I'll go that way.
In the route style, which is on average favored more by females, is to essentially follow a sequence of landmarks. I know that to get from A to B, I go first to the laundromat, then I go to the McDonald's, then I turn left at the church, and I follow a sequence of landmarks and turns to get to my destination.
The whole thing was your idea, then?
The survey strategy, on the other hand, which is on average more prevalent in males, this is the survey strategy or survey style is to basically have a comprehensive overall understanding of space, to even know from any place roughly or precisely where other places are located, even if they're not along routes that you've directly traveled before.
Very muddy. All the grass, all the little bits are on one side, all the grass cuttings,
Yeah, but
all the hedge
everyone
cuttings.
who comes in here is lost, don't they? Apart from the guy that cuts the hedge, of course.
Yeah, no, but I'm just trying to remember if we get back here, we can know, you know, which one we've actually taken and which one we haven't
I think we've taken them both at some point.
Well, that one's got all the hedge cuttings on one side, and this one's got a pebble with a bit of white on it.
I'll never find that again.
No, it's quite easy. We'll find it
You
again.
made a decision now?
Oh, twig. Yeah, I have. This is bent twig again.
I think we're going to end up on the same bit we were before. Which we have done, no. We came from that way before, didn't we?
I don't want to be in here anymore. I want to, like, find a hole in the hedge.
So if we go back, we're going to end up back at that bridge right next to the centre. What do we do then? Which way?
Ask somebody in the centre which way to go.
We tried that, they wouldn't tell us.
Yeah.
I say we keep going back that way. and see
Well,
what
if you want to do that, but don't get frustrated with me if, like, it's not the right way.
You're getting agitated,
I
aren't
am,
you?
yeah. I'm getting really sick of this. I just want to go in the cafe and have a cup of tea.
It's often said that men don't ask for directions. And it's interesting when you consider the kinds of fights and the frustrations that can be created. And I believe it's, of course, that the so-called male ego could have something to do with this. He doesn't want to admit that he's lost, and so he refrains from asking for directions because that seems unmanly to him. But I'm fairly confident that that can't be the whole story. I think, in fact, if we find that men and women on average have these two different navigating styles, the route and the survey, then there can be situations where neither the man nor the woman knows exactly which turn to take. Neither knows exactly which street to take. The woman feels that they're quite disoriented, they're lost, and they need help. The man, if he is good at survey style of reasoning, he doesn't know the exact road, just like his wife doesn't, but he feels he knows in which direction. He has some sense of which way he needs to go. So he doesn't feel disoriented. He simply thinks, well, I'm not lost because I know if I keep going in that direction, I'll get there eventually and we'll recognize what we're looking for. So he doesn't think they're lost. She thinks they're lost. You've got a classic conflict situation there.
City streets offer endless possibilities for getting lost, especially in a city like London, with 7 million people navigating miles of narrow, twisting roads, originally designed for horse and cart. Fortunately, London also has 22,000 experts to help us get around.
My name's Brian. I've been driving a cab now for nearly 9 years. It'll be 9 years in about 4 weeks' time. The knowledge of London is what cab drivers have to do to become cab drivers, to get your badge. Knowing the roads, knowing the places of interest. It took me about 3 years to do the knowledge, roughly. I started off part-time and towards the end I became full-time. So about 3 years. Most people do it in about 3 years.
Well, the research on taxi cab drivers seems to show that their knowledge of the cities, which is expert knowledge by any definition of the term, is based on something we call route knowledge, which is the building up of a lot of information about how to get from one place to another place.
Well, when someone asks me for a place, say Victoria Station, it comes instantly into my mind. I get a picture of Victoria Station, I know where that is, and from that I then decide which way I'm going to go. If we say Piccadilly, leave by the Haymarket, turn right into Pall Mall, left into Marlborough Gate, right into the Mall, comply Queen Victoria Memorial, turn right, Birdcage Walk, forward Buckingham Palace Road, left Bressenden Place, right Victoria Street, left Vauxhall Bridge Road, right Neath House Place, right Wilton Road, and drop it down on the left.
Their expertise is similar to the expertise of all expert navigators, regardless of the culture, such as the islanders in the Pacific Ocean. They can get into their little boat and travel 500 miles and hit a little island no bigger than this room and rarely miss it. And they use very subtle cues in the ocean, in the stars, which they have built up over years from navigating. They can get from one island to the next, point A to point B, very similar fashion to that cab driver in London who can get you from Soho to the Tower of London in the quickest amount of time, avoiding the most amount of traffic.
We have road signs, we have odometers, we have cartographic maps, we have all sorts of technological devices in our designed environment. We've basically gotten to a situation in our so-called civilized or technologically developed cultures where we don't need to pay attention to the signs that are out there. We could do it, we can learn to do it, and if we bothered to pay attention, we could notice these things too. We just don't need to.
Day-to-day navigation and what differentiates people who are good with regard to sense of direction and good with regard to wayfinding can be learned by everybody. And the results of looking at stories of individuals from different cultures who do these amazing feats in rather homogeneous, undifferentiated environments, such as the Inuit in a whiteout, in an environment in which the ice floes are moving and the ice is changing from day to day in terms of its form. This seems incredible, especially in a whiteout when you don't have the celestial cues. But what you find is that humans have the remarkable ability to use whatever information that is systematic in the environment. So they may know patterns of wind direction. They will be monitoring the fur on their parka to see if it's shifting with regard to wind direction. If it shifts, then they look at the buildup of the snow because it forms waves, and this is a permanent record of the typical wind directions. In every case where we've walked into and said, these people have an innate sense of direction, close analysis by anthropologists indicates what they'd have is a very well-differentiated ability to pick up cues in the environment that we don't necessarily pick up.
The forest presents its own challenges. Like most of Canada, Nova Scotia is sparsely populated. Forest covers 80% of the province. It has been called the lost person capital of North America. Per capita, more people go missing here than anywhere else.
We have a lot of people in the woods that are very difficult to navigate, weather that's very unpredictable. As it's been described to me, we have many small trees very close together, which makes for visibility, and vision is our primary method of navigation. And if we can't see very far, then we're in trouble. We also have the way our communities are usually situated. Everybody has access to the woods. In fact, the point last seen is typically the backyard of the lost subject, missing person.
To a child, the backyard is comforting, but confining. 7 years ago, Leanne Dominics and Ricky Chambers left the yard behind and strayed a few steps too far from home.
That's all we did. We just doesn't seem quite as exciting now as it did when we were young, but that's all we were doing.
That's what we were doing right here. Once I realized I was lost, I started panicking. But then it was just like, we gotta find a way out. Because nobody knows we're here. So we started walking around, doing circles, and then finally it was just too dark. They had to walk. We couldn't walk no more.
I was crying the whole time. He tried calming me down. We didn't really talk. We just figured that, hoping that people will find us.
We were so cold that we just couldn't walk no more. It got to the point that we were just like, we're useless. Like, this is where we're at until we're being found.
Children will be able to verbalize very little about their experience, especially younger children under 12 years of age. It's such a frightening experience for them. They are completely panicked and in shock in a real sense, such that later they're able to articulate very little about the experience that they had. I have learned a lot, though, from talking to children. I talked to one child, a small child, and when I asked him what kinds of scary things he saw in the night, he said he saw giants with one eye walking around, moaning his name. And of course, these were searchers with headlamps calling his name out in the middle of the night. And I thought, it's no wonder that small children never respond to people calling their name, to searchers calling their names in the woods. And this is true for a lot of older children as well. It's a very frightening experience for them.
I heard dogs, but I I assumed that it would have been coyotes. I never suspected that they'd bring in search dogs for me. So as they were bringing in search dogs, I heard them and I just tried to run away farther and farther. Just, again, didn't want to see coyotes or anything like that.
This is Bradley Woodbury when he was 15, after 3 days lost in dense woods.
First feeling I had was a sudden urge and like an adrenaline rush to just start running, breaking things, trying to just get a rage out of my system. My heart started beating really fast and I just felt like I had a lot of strength and that I could do anything.
Wood shock is something that is just a term for a certain kind of fear, a very unique fear. I think has very little similarity to any other kind of fear that's ever been studied. It's a fear associated with complete loss of spatial orientation. None of the rational abilities that they had before being lost are useful to them anymore because they are essentially in a panic state. It's not something that happens to somebody immediately. It takes some period of time for that to creep up onto somebody. At first, it's a sense of disorientation. Uh-oh, I don't know where I am, you know. I'm not in Kansas anymore. I better hurry up and find my place and find the road or find the car, find the direction out. And then the woods starts to become strange to them. Places that they have passed, landmarks that they have passed and noticed are no longer familiar to them.
I was full of blisters, my feet were really sore. I was full of bugs, and it just seemed like every time you turned around, it was just like a cartoon of bugs just swarming your face all around. I have to say my body was pretty much ready to shut down, but the adrenaline just kept me going.
I figured that I would wake up Monday morning and I would be around, but I wasn't betting too much on Tuesday. Then I figured that, because I knew I was getting more tired, I was cold, I was wet, because it had rained so much, and I knew that my time was starting to run out.
Bill Antle is lucky. 30 years ago, he spent 5 freezing November nights in the Cape Breton woods and lost only 5 toes to frostbite. It's a miracle that he was found.
The hardest thing, I believe, is to admit that you got lost, because until you do that, you know, like, there's certain things you should do when you get lost, and you don't do them if you don't think you're lost. You just kind of keep moving and traveling, and then a lot of times you're going further away from where you were, and makes it harder for people to find you.
Nobody knew where we were. Nobody had any idea where we were. I mean, if we'd have stopped and stayed where we were, we could have been there for days. And in our minds, it was still, I mean, you look across this stream and there the path continues on the other side of the stream. So it was still in our minds, if we kept going, we would get out. We'd walk out somewhere.
Trish Wilson and Paula Goldrick took their dogs for a walk, mistaking an old road for a shortcut. They wandered 18 kilometers through a maze of trails before being rescued.
Looking down that path kind of brings some memories back, that's for sure. Feel a lot safer walking the other way, back out towards the road.
I have no desire to go back in there, none. And I don't know if that's for today or forever. Like, I've always enjoyed the woods, but I realize that they can be a lot more dangerous than you think.
This is what the experience of loss, being lost, does to you. It makes you afraid. And when you're afraid, you cannot solve problems. You can't solve any sort of complex problem at all. You can't remember the simplest things about which direction did I turn at that last intersection. This is why we advise people to become lost. First thing you should do, sit down, calm yourself, get your arousal level down, and think about the best way to get out of this situation.
If you can't make your way out, a team like Halifax Regional Search and Rescue will do their best to find you. Disciplined, well-trained volunteers, they don't just pour into the woods. Instead, they use scientific tools like probability theory and analysis of lost person behavior, along with expert tracking skills they've gained through years of personal experience in the bush. Tonight, they're on the trail of 3 missing hunters.
Location for this center down here. So what I would suggest we do is send a team back, move them up here, and we'll just do some sign cutting.
Mike Murray spends his days as a museum director and about 10 nights a year as a key member of this search management team. It's up to Mike to determine the best places to look.
Remember, our objectives right now are to determine direction of travel, so sign cutting is what we need.
Right there.
Okay, that's my next point. When someone goes missing, the police are first on the scene. Once they're sure a search is needed, the volunteer team is called in. Speed is crucial to success. The team starts immediately, confining the search to the smallest possible area.
Well, thanks, Pete. Some team 2.
It's a lot easier for us to find and track somebody down who's not moving. And searching at night gives us that opportunity. It's a benefit for us. And that's one of the reasons why we specifically train into searching at night, because the lost subject is immobile.
A search is a classic mystery. To solve it, the team uses knowledge of past searches. The result is a series of behavioral profiles telling them how far they can expect different lost subjects to travel. Dawn breaks. It's bitterly cold. The first cold snap of the year. With daylight, the missing hunters may be on the move.
Here, this is where we found their cars, and that's we knew that they were there for lunch yesterday. From there, you can see these red circles, 2 of them here. 50% of the people lost were found in this area here. So of all the people ever lost, they were discovered in this area here. So 50% were found in this area, and the rest were found outside of that area. So given limited resources, we're putting a lot of our resources into this area here. We've indicated with some of the black lines here, local trails, and these areas, we're sending resources down there, one, to determine a direction of travel. What we don't know right now is which direction they went.
Okay, that's Everett and Tony blowing the horn there. And
what we're looking for is not so much the lost person, but a number of clues that the lost person or people will leave, whether it be footprints, odor, skin, pieces of clothing, shotgun shells. We found a shotgun shell from a 410 shotgun. We know that one of the people lost had a 410. We found tracks, and so that helps us identify and reduce those areas where to search. Remember, the problem is we have limited resources. Time is becoming critical. The people have been in the woods for 24 hours at this point here. So at minus 15 degrees Celsius, we have potential hypothermia, but obviously, unless they've found shelter, been able to keep warm. These are experienced hunters. I'm very confident that we'll locate them fairly soon.
I'll confirm I have 2 subjects. We still have 1, and I have information here from the 2 gentlemen, and you can interview them as for where the gentleman is. I've got some to give you too. The 2 gentlemen are fine, a little cold, a little hungry, but they're fine.
Confirm the
names. Can you give us the names of the 2?
The gentleman that is not found is Art.
Thank you. Art Sanders is not found, so it must be Wayne I and Keith Morris are found.
2 of the hunters did the smart thing. They found a cabin and stayed put. The 3rd thought he could walk out of the woods himself. The search enters a whole new phase.
Put down where you think the last place you saw him was at 4:30 last night.
I'd say down in here.
Right in here. Okay, we're going to just temporarily...
So was he closer to the guys who rode in or further away?
What equipment did he have with him? Did he pack with any stuff in it?
Yeah. He had a knapsack with, 2
What?
Yeah, he might have had some food. I don't know if he did. He usually takes his lunch with him, so.
Okay, did you guys come back to your truck for lunch yesterday?
No way.
Lost people have walked right past searchers,
Not back to your truck.
crossed highways and backyards, convinced they're headed the right way. Some even hide or plunge ever deeper into the bush.
A little concerned now, it's 11 o'clock. We've got 6 hours of daylight. We're positive now that is the find area. And now what we have to do is determine the direction of travel those people were going and where that cabin was. And that will give us enough clues to then try and determine where the other person was at 4:30 yesterday. So then we know that he was taking a course of 120 degrees magnetic at 4:30, and it may help us at least define the areas that we need to put more emphasis.
Was there any indication from any of our other members that they would be out later on today, or?
Time is critical. The potential search area becomes larger with each passing minute. Conditions are working in the lost man's favor. It's clear today, and he's wearing hunter orange, easily visible from a helicopter.
Halifax Base, Patrol 9.
Go ahead, Patrol 8, Halifax Base.
Okay, we have the individual, and he's owning quite far down the Miller Road here. We're going to bring him back to base here.
Identifying. Confirmed.
We're just talking about
All right.
That's affirmative, Patrol 8. Get back to base, we'll be waiting for you.
GPS? I was looking at
Patrol 8, would it be possible to get a GPS reading?
Good work again.
I got a fine? Confirmed, all right. Where's Brian? Just said, let's get Brian in, let's call all the other teams back. We have to make transportation arrangements.
That was the most embarrassing moment of my life. And embarrassing and upsetting at the same time. Because I had upset my hunting buddies. He was very upset.
From the search team. Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to
Come
see you.
on the bus we'll talk to for a few minutes. This is Mike Murray. Mike was one of the guys.
He blamed himself, because I blamed myself. And unfortunately, we're all to blame. So that's the bottom line, like I said. It's our wives that took the brunt of all of this. My wife was sick probably for 2 or 3 days afterwards. I'll pull the rope and I'll blow the horn, and I'll get a reading. I'll know exactly where you guys are at.
It's a science that works. It certainly works when you compare it to maybe the old-fashioned way of looking for somebody, where you have what I call the posse method, where you just send people off in different directions, and if you find them, bring them back. And we've also, of course, found where people didn't use a scientific approach to searching for lost people, that quite often that their system, whatever it is, may work for a while, but it's just a matter of time before they have a tragedy. Now, you could still have a tragedy applying a scientific approach, because people are so unpredictable sometimes, but the chances are quite reduced if you use good principles of search.
Back then, if we'd have had the search and rescue formed the way it is today, and with the knowledge we have and the caliber of people we have today, I would really and truly have to say I would have got out that night. It turned me on to search and rescue, and I felt obligated. I really did, and I still do today. I've been in it now for, 29 years pretty well.
I don't think you ever forget. I drive by that road still today, and every once in a while. And it's been 2 years or so for us, but it's like an anniversary in October. I remember, this is when we were in the woods, or today isn't like the day that we were in the woods, I don't think you ever forget that feeling.
When I got found on the third day in the woods, it was like 500 pounds just fell off my shoulders. The helicopter guys got me in the helicopter, and I was so relieved. And then as soon as I stepped out of the helicopter, as soon as I got me back to the search area, and I seen my family again, they just came up and swore me. And it was just like a new beginning in my life. Before I was taking a lot of stuff for granted, and now I know not to. Just, I gotta kind of live life to the fullest now. Just, you never know when you kind of, what's gonna happen the next day.
Yay! Thank God for that.
I gotta get back out again.
I know.
Look out, you way back. I'm really pleased we didn't give up.
I know, I'm pleased we didn't give up. It's all right.
What happened?